Good afternoon, everyone. We are glad to see you here today.
Don't be surprised, it happens so often to twins.
Yes, that's rather amazing. By the way, did you ever happen to communicate with twins? At first sight, they look completely alike. But if you look closer, you can see quite many differences. The same thing is with crises. Our history experienced a great number of them. But today we, Liliya, Yulia, and Anna, will be talking about the current crisis, which is so familiar to all of us. We are going to show you the most picturesque way out of crisis.
But before I start, let me ask you a question. How many of you traveled last year? Raise your hands, please, those who traveled. Wow, that's really many.
So it might be easy for you to imagine yourself in the shoes of a tourist. Imagine you are walking in a downtown St. Petersburg and suddenly realize that you are lost. You are asking the way, but all you hear is
Je ne comprends pas, je suis un touriste.
Or
Non capisco, sono italiano.
statistics shows that during the high season 2010, every fourth person in St. Petersburg was a tourist. And that's during the time when the economy was under crisis.
That's a really striking number. It shows that tourism in St. Petersburg does pretty well. And what about world tourism?
The same case. After the fall in 2009, there was a rapid increase in world tourism in the middle of in 2008, there was a rapid increase in the world tourism in 2009. It is this positive trend that made us think about the prospects of travel industry for St. Petersburg and for entire Russia.
Today, in our presentation, we are going to discuss the following topics. Why tourism? What about developing tourism in Russia? And where to start from?
So the first question is, why tourism? United Nations World Tourism Organization reports that today travel industry is one of the main sources of revenue in developed countries. For example, tourism accounts for 15% in the gross domestic product of France, and as you can see, is 13 and 12% in Spain and Italy, respectively.
And moreover, there are examples of entire economies that are based on travel industries. These countries were simply lucky to be located in such favorable conditions, and they know how to use wisely these advantages.
To say more, according to world statistics, every tourist spends more than $500 during one trip. Every 30 tourists create a vacancy, and every 6th person in the world traveled last year.
Yulia, great figures.
Yes, indeed. The impact of tourism is enormous, and it can be measured with a so-called multiplier effect, which you can see on the graph. A foreign tourist spends a certain amount of money for services of travel agency and other purchases within the country. Due to the multiplier effect, revenues got from every single tourist exceed the sum of money he spends. By the way, exactly in travel industry, the multiplier effect is the largest.
Sounds good. But what about Russia? Is there a point in developing tourism in our country? As far as I know, the share of tourism in Russian GDP is today only 2.5%. Moreover, take into account all the obstacles, such as poor infrastructure or unskilled personnel. I really doubt it.
Yulia, but they are taken into account. The thing is that the development of travel industry is a strong incentive for Russian economic growth, especially in the post-crisis period. So if we today deal with current problems such as undeveloped infrastructure or unskilled personnel, we will bring Russia and Russian economy on a game-changing level.
To say more, Yulia, during the post-crisis period, people tend to travel more within the country. This means bigger revenues for Russian travel agencies and thus additional employment opportunities.
Well, let's think now. It all sounds great in theory. Crisis is over, we develop tourism, we gain huge profits and make our country flourish, just like in a fairy tale. But that's not how it works out in reality.
I see why you feel this way. It's always hard to get started, especially if you tackle such a large-scale problem. So what you need to do in such situation is simply to reduce the scale of the problem. So now, let's take a look how tourism can benefit a particular city. Let's take St. Petersburg.
At this point, let's make kind of a SWOT analysis of St. Petersburg. So it's just the right time to remember your marketing classes. We are going to analyze strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats of St. Petersburg as a tourist destination.
So, let's start with the strengths. St. Petersburg has a great potential in the sphere of tourism. Baltic Pearl, Northern Venice, cultural capital. It's all about St. Petersburg, a real treasure of Russia. And of course, there are reasons for such conclusion. First of all, St. Petersburg enjoys a great geopolitical position. Secondly, it has plenty of historical and cultural attractions. That's why it's even in the UNESCO list of World Cultural Heritage. Besides that, St. Petersburg is already a well-known tourist attraction. There is vivid statistics that 15% of world population know St. Petersburg and would like to visit the city.
However, there's always something you can't deal with.
What do you mean?
I mean, for example, seasonal decrease in tourist flows. Well, and this is the first weakness of St. Petersburg. You see, our Russian winter with slush and heavy snow, it just can never be cancelled. It even became the basis for many stereotypes about Russia, such as bears walking in the streets, for example. Then, what also frightens tourists away is insecurity and huge amounts of red tape. Well, for example, such challenges as getting a visa or registration.
Still, how to overcome all the obstacles on the way to success? We believe that the one should see opportunities and use them effectively. So let's see what opportunities there are for St. Petersburg. Firstly, it can become a large transit port. For this purpose, there are two impressive projects underway. The first one is the project Seafront, and particularly Seaport, which is expected to be the largest in Europe. The second project is the new Pulkovo Airport. In 3 years, when the construction of a new Pulkovo terminal is over, the annual passenger flow will grow up to 11 million passengers. Secondly, administration of St. Petersburg has already set a goal to increase the share of tourism in the gross regional product up to 20%, which is almost twice as high as now.
Opportunities are great, no doubt. However, one should bear in mind possible threats. One of the main threats for St. Petersburg is tough competition with European cities, such as Paris, London, Rome, and many others. But still, there is encouraging statistics. Last year, the number of tourists to St. Petersburg almost equaled the number of tourists to such popular cities as Vienna and Venice.
Nevertheless, there is also another threat which might be even more topical nowadays. The historical center of St. Petersburg is under the pressure of large business. This process was even called the Second Siege. Let's look at the figures. During the Second World War, 2 buildings in Nevsky Prospect were destroyed, and only over the last several years, 6 buildings were demolished.
Terrifying statistics, isn't it? Remember the saying by Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky, by the way, a citizen of St. Petersburg. He said, "Beauty will save the world." We think that today the contrary question is on the agenda. Who will save the beauty? The thing is that, striving for financial success, we should not forget to appreciate what we already have.
And to sum up our SWOT analysis, we would like to say that throughout its history, St. Petersburg has always been one of the greatest tourist attractions. We do believe that being a prosperous city, it will be able to benefit the entire economy of Russia. As a popular tourist destination, it will help to improve the image of our country, and thus contribute to rapid recovery of Russia from the crisis.
Coming closer to the end of our presentation, we would like to tell you a short story about the 2 salesmen who went to South Africa in 1900s to see if there is any opportunity to sell shoes there. 2 weeks later, they both rode back to Manchester. The first salesman wrote, "Situation is hopeless. Stop. They don't wear shoes." And another one wrote, "A glorious opportunity. They don't wear shoes yet." The same thing is with travel industry. Someone views it as a hopeless direction, but another one is sure that this is a great area for further development.
Our constructive case is dedicated to travel industry of St. Petersburg, its challenges and perspectives in the post-crisis period. We would like to place tourism higher on agenda, as this sector can indeed contribute to faster recovery.
And finally, do you remember the questions we asked at the beginning? So now let's answer them together one more time. The first question was, why tourism? And here comes the answer. This sphere with relatively small inputs can lead to really great outcomes.
The second question was, what about tourism in Russia? We do believe that this is a glorious opportunity, as one of the salesmen said once.
And the last question was, where to start from? Start from the small. So, start from the small, appreciate what you already have, and don't miss the chances. In our work, we used information from official site of United Nations World Tourism Organization, official sites of Moscow and St. Petersburg administrations, sites of Pulkovo Airport and Seafront Project. We also used recent publications, video by Andrei Yefimov and music by Iggy Pop. Thank you for attention.